Hello, all you wonderful people, and welcome to the video. In this video, I'm going to talk about weed or cannabis or marijuana and depersonalization. And it's a really bit of an interesting topic because one of the things which can happen with weed is that you can be completely fine, and then all of a sudden you get high, and then something happens while you're high. And then afterwards, when you sort of start to come down and sober up, you notice that things aren't quite the same. And then perhaps a few days later, you realize, oh crap, I think I've got DP or DR. So in this video, I'm going to go into why potentially that could happen and what you can do about it. And for those of you that are new to the channel, then welcome. My name is Dan, and I do help people overcome their DPDR, whether they've had it through weed or other means, to get their life back, to live a life DPDR free. I have spoken to a number of people who have asked me, Dan, is it possible to overcome DPDR if you got it from drugs or from weed or whatever it was? And the answer to that question is sort of twofold, because there's two things that are possibly happening here. One is that you got high and then you experienced some of the negative side effects of being high, which led you to sort of, say things about yourself or your surroundings in that situation, which has led to anxiety, which has led to DPDR. Or if it's a stronger drug like acid or something like that, it could have actually sort of physically, mucked around with your brain chemistry, which has caused DPDR. Then, if you got your DPDR after being high from some of the anxious things that are potentially going on in your mind, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, then that's something I can definitely help with. But if there is like a hormonal thing or a chemical imbalance or something like that going on, then that's something I can't actually help with. So with that, you'll need to talk to your doctor to sort of eliminate if that has happened and talk about getting on any meds or anything like that with him. Here are some cannabis facts. The active ingredient is THC, which stimulates the part of the brain that responds to pleasure, such as food and sex. It releases dopamine, which gives you a relaxed and euphoric feeling. I'm sure you've experienced this, particularly during the first times of smoking weed, where you get the munchies, you can't stop laughing, like physical touch is really nice, like even going for a swim can be really cool. So this is the dopamine in full effect. The effects of weed can be positive and negative. Some of the positive include it relaxes you, subdues pain, gives you better focus on a single task, makes you more creative, makes you laugh easier, makes you less anxious. But some of the negative are that it can make you paranoid, it can increase your heart rate, it can distort your thinking and cloud your judgment and senses, and make you afraid or panicked. How it affects you depends on the type of pot you've had, how you took it, how much you had, and how much you've used in the past. How pot relates to depersonalization. The chances are, if your DPDR was triggered after taking weed, you experience some of the negative side effects, particularly the anxious ones. The thoughts, feelings, and memory of the experience can stay with you long after you're sober, which is most likely why you now have DPDR. Essentially, it comes down to what you thought about yourself while being high, or what you thought of your surroundings or your situation that has caused you to consciously or unconsciously become anxious about something. This is quite an important distinction to make, because it might not necessarily be the weed which is giving you DPDR, but it could be because of something weird happened while you were smoking, or all of a sudden a thought just popped into your head and it was a bit of an odd thought. Maybe you'd never thought of it before. And the memory of what you experienced and the thought and sort of your shock at the thought is probably going to still be with you, which is most likely going to cause you anxious thoughts, which is going to cause a DPDR. Or you experience something traumatic while high. So you've anchored the experience of smoking weed as the cause of the DPDR, when in fact the weed might not have anything to do with it. How you can recover from DPDR after weed. First, you need to make sure you're not taking it anymore. If you're worried the weed has messed with your brain chemistry, then talk to a doctor to eliminate that possibility. If it is a chemical imbalance, then I won't be able to help you with that. However, it's most likely it's caused by some kind of anxiety, and so coaching will help. If your DPDR was caused because of weed, the path to recovery is the same as if it wasn't caused by weed. This includes talking to a trained expert about your anxious thinking, psychologist, therapist, psychiatrist, or a coach, which is what I do. look at acceptance of your symptoms while you get help to help you through the recovery process, and get good at grounding techniques to get yourself centered. Essentially, recovery from DPDR, if you've had weed or even if you haven't had weed, is essentially the same process. It's about talking to someone about your anxious thinking. What is going on in your mind, which is making you anxious, which is, putting up that wall or giving the fight or flight response or whatever it is, which is causing the DPDR. The really important reason why you need to talk to somebody about that is because it might be a subconscious thing. It might be something that you're not actually aware of. And how do you fix something if you're not even aware of it? So it does take talking to someone who's trained in active listening, who knows how to read between the lines and listen to what you're saying, and give you the patterns of what you're saying and challenge what you're saying and challenge your beliefs and all this type of stuff. And in terms of grounding, that's also really important as well, because if you are starting to feel a little bit out of body or not connected, then grounding is really going to help you feel a lot more centered. And the concept of practicing acceptance, where you don't engage with any of the thoughts or the questions that you're having, is also important in terms of the recovery process, because if you try and engage with them or fix the symptoms, then nothing's actually going to really get fixed, because all the symptoms are all these little things. I mean, I know they're having a big impact in your life, but you've got a symptom here, a symptom here, a symptom here. And if you try and do each one individually, you might sort of get this one better, but then this one gets worse, or vice versa. So what we really need to do is dive under all of that, which is where perhaps the trauma is, the anxious thinking is resolve all of that. And then the flow on effect from that is that all these problems are going to start to dissolve themselves. And if you are interested in how therapy or grounding or acceptance can help you, then I've done videos on each of these individual topics where I go into a lot more detail about what they are, how they help you, and what you can do to start to implement those things to get you through your DPDR and get you over it. So you wonderful people, the moral of the story is for this video that weed does not make a difference if you've actually think that your DPDRs come on by weed, because the process of recovering from it is still going to be the same unless there is an actual physical chemical imbalance thing which is going on, which I'm not going to be able to tell you about. Only your doctor is going to be able to tell you about that. But the good news is that in the vast majority of cases, it is about anxious thinking and having anxious thoughts. And that is something that can 100% get resolved. It can get untangled. You can untangle it all and lay it all out in a straight line and look at it and be like, well, is that a good one? No, let's get rid of that. What's happening there? Oh, let's put this here. And everything you need to do to sort all this out. And that's going to stop your anxious thinking. And of course, once your anxious thinking goes, then the DPDR goes. So my friends, I really hope you've learned a little bit from this video. And if you have liked it, or if you have learned something from it, then give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. That would be really cool. And until next time, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.